Welcome back, class 11th. Now, in this part of secularism, chapter 7th, we will see how the Western model of secularism functions, how it is different from the Indian model of secularism. We will compare both these aspects and see how Indian model has adapted to Indian needs. Now, starting with this Western model of secularism, we will see that this model is based on two words. That means it is based on mutual exclusion of state and religion. That means that state will not interfere in the working and the aspects of religion, and so will the religion in case of state. For example, if we take example of US, the state will not interfere in the functioning and the working and the aspects of Catholic Church, and Catholic Church will not intervene in the aspects of states. So here we will see the concept is based on the mutual exclusion. That means state will work in its own sphere and Catholic Church or church will work in its own sphere. So state cannot do anything to improve any religious aspect, even if it is demeaning to other groups within that religion or inter-religious groups. So this means that state will do nothing about it. A state will just be a silent witness, and it will observe. It can only observe and can do nothing with regards to religious aspects. So you'll see this is based on the idea of mutual exclusion. Why? Because in Western model of secularism or the American model of secularism, we see that states earlier in Europe and Northern America, these states were homogeneous group. There were no ethnic there were no other communities apart from these homogeneous groups. Only a few fraction, few number of people, few number of Jews existed at that point of time, but still most of them belonged to Christianity. So there was never a point of intra-religious domination and inter-religious domination, because in Western model of secularism these things never existed in the past. So Western model of secularism, if you can see that they will not emphasize on the issues of interreligious and minority rights, and these things are often neglected. Why? Because there never existed these groups never existed at any point of time. And in the present age of globalization, in the last 150 years, we will see that people are moving from one country to another for search of better opportunities. From India they are moving to US, from China they are moving to US, from Thailand, from Vietnam, and so on. We see that people are moving to US and they are taking the religious aspects and cultural aspects with them to the US. Now it is a mixed society. Now it is a society where you can see different kinds of communities and different types of people, but earlier it was not the case. So in this model of secularism, that is Western model of secularism, you will not find any thing with regards to minority rights, interreligious equality, and so on. Because if I need to say that, for example, if you can understand that if I give you a margherita pizza, so you have tasted margherita pizza, you know how it will taste in a good Domino's pizza and how it will taste when it is made bad in some other local bakery or some other way. So you know the difference because you have tasted it. But if you never knew the taste of pizza, margherita pizza, and if I give it to you for the first time from a local bakery which lacks in good taste, you will see okay, it's fine. But even only when you have tasted Domino's pizza, then you can compare it with Domino's pizza and that local pizza. That means what I want to say is only if you have observed that communities existed in the past, only if the communities existed in the past in Europe, then only they can ask about minority rights. Earlier, what was the composition of Europe and Northern America? In Europe and Northern America, you will see that earlier there were 99% of people belonging to the similar religion, that is Christianity. Most of them were from the Christianity. So there never arose a point at any point of time that we need minority rights, we need equality of interreligious aspects. So in this Western model secularism, you will see these things are often neglected because earlier they never existed and now it is a new phenomena. So they are trying to change, they are trying to inculcate all these values as well. Now, another aspect that we see in Western model of secularism is that state will not interfere in the affairs of religion. Okay, if we see how, that means if religion run institutions require money, that means if religion run institutions, that means Catholic church has some schools or some Christian Catholic schools or convents, if they require money, the government will not not give aid, not provide help in financial terms. Why? Because of mutual exclusion. Government will not interfere with the uh, uh, religious aspects, and even though these religious aspects may include education from these religious institutions, so government will not aid these educational institutions. These educational institutions will be run by the sole authority of Catholic church. Why I'm giving you an example of Catholic church? Because in the Western model of secularism, you will see that majority of the countries are Catholic or they are followers of Christianity. So when we will discuss about Indian aspect, then we will discuss different religions and how they have improved upon various things in Indian aspect. So first you will see that they cannot aid in the any they cannot aid any religious institution, because it is, even though it is an educational institution, it is still a part of religious institution. Now, if another example, you can see that if a religious institution forbids a woman from becoming a priest, then the state can do little about it. That means if in any church a woman wants to become a priest, this and the Catholic church denies this request or denies this method, so state cannot do anything. State will not intervene, because earlier I told you it was based on the idea of mutual exclusion. So state is not going to interfere in the functioning of religious aspects of religion of Catholic church. So then you can see that state has no option but to let matter rest exactly where it is. On this view, religion is a private matter, not a matter of state policy or law. So in Western model of secularism, we will see that they treat religion as a private matter. That means they treat it on the individual basis, not on the community basis. Because I told you earlier, these societies were not heterogeneous, they were homogeneous, composed of only Christian religion and only followers of Christianity. So they never discussed about the community rights as a whole. They were emphasizing on the individual rights. So here also you can see that religion is a private matter and not a matter of a state policy or law. So state will not intervene. So what they will do is they will treat religion on an individual basis and not as a matter of community or state law. So this you will see that it is because they focus on individualist matters. That means their central idea or central theme of Western models of secularism is that individual is the central theme. Individual is the main focus, and only things related to individual rights will be discussed by state and not on the community basis. And as I have told you earlier that these societies were earlier not heterogeneous, so you can see here that most of the Western societies were marked by a great deal of religious homogeneity. As I told you earlier now, that these societies were homogeneous and not heterogeneous. So you can see that given the fact they naturally focused on intra-religious domination. They only focused on intra-religious domination and not on the inter-religious domination. So what we will see in this form of secularism, that in this secularism, state cannot interfere or state cannot support religious freedom. State will say that this religious aspect is part of that particular religion and that has to be dealt by religious people only, or people at the top of the authority of that particular religion. State will not interfere in that religion's policy or anything related to that. So you will see it is based on a relationship of mutual exclusion. Okay. Then here you can see is example of Kemal Atatürk's secularism. It was also based on the Western concept of secularism. So as I have discussed earlier, non-cooperation movement and Gandhiji's Khilafat movement, merging of Khilafat movement and Gandhiji's non-cooperation movement in 1920. So it was done to bring Hindu-Muslim unity in India. But the reason behind the Khilafat movement was that by the end of the First World War in 1918, by 1919, Khalifa was removed from the top position of Muslim leader. Khalifa was the Muslim leader of all over the world. So he was removed from his position by Kemal Ataturk, and he wanted to secularize Turkey and bring out the Turkey from the shackles of old religion. So what Kemal Ataturk did was, he removed Khalifa, the leader of the Muslim world, and then what he did, he promoted Western ideas. He wanted to promote Western education. He wanted to promote Western dressing sense, so that people are open to new modern ideas, and this will improve Turkey's, or present day we are calling it Turkey. Present day Turkey, it has changed its name from Turkey to Turkey. So you need to understand, you need to keep update yourself with current affairs also. So Turkey's society, or earlier Turkey's society was to be improved by the Western ideas. This is what Kemal Ataturk wanted. So he promoted this Western idea of secularism. He promoted Western ideas. He promoted Western education. He promoted Western dressing for both men and women, so that Turkey is an improved and a modern society, and people will also flourish with the acceptance of the new modern ideas, which will further enhance their advancement. So this was the basis of Kemal Ataturk's secularism, that is Western model of secularism. Now coming to Indian model of secularism, we will see that sometimes it is said that Indian secularism is an imitation of the Western secularism. No, it is not the case. Why? We will discuss it after studying with this topic. You will be able to answer that how it is different from the Western model of secularism. Now discussing about Indian model of secularism, first you will see that it does not focus on the church-state separation. That means church-state separation, here we are not discussing Christianity. Here church signifies, or it is a symbol of religion. That means Indian secularism does not focus on the religion and state separation. Why? And why? Because it thinks कि states needs to interfere, state needs to be in alignment with religious policies, and religious policies are to be aligned with the modern day values of a state. What this means is that idea of inter-religious equality and intra-religion equality is important for Indian secularism. It is crucial. Here it is given, it is crucial. It is very much important. Why? Because in Indian model of secularism, we will see that due to existence of multiple religions, due to existence of different kinds of communities within those particular religions, India is a very multi-religious and multicultural society. So what a state cannot do is that a state cannot turn a blind eye towards whatever is happening in all those religious aspects. So what a state will do is, state will not only try, it will interfere in religious aspects on the basis that it wants to improve the religion and conditions of the people following that particular religion. For an example, if we discuss that in Hinduism, we will see there existed a society of upper caste and lower caste. Earlier, let me give you a background, that earlier when this Varna system started of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, all these things were based on occupation and not by birth. That means when this system initially started in the ancient India, the Varna system of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, these systems were based on the idea that Brahman will teach, he is a kind of a teacher, he is kind of a guru. Kshatriya will protect, he is kind of a leader, a warrior, a king. Vaishya will be the trader, है ना, Vaishya will be the trader, and Shudra will be the person. Now we can compare it with the present day people who are involved in the menial task like peon, है ना, people who क्या कहते हैं clean, people who are helping in domestic chores and things like these. So all these things were based on occupation. That means if a person from the Brahman, if a son or a daughter of Brahman wanted to be a part of Kshatriya, he wanted to be a warrior. If a son of a Brahman wanted to be a warrior, he could easily transfer himself into the warrior and he will be called as Kshatriya, because these were occupations and not the caste. The caste aspect came very much later in the trend when some people wanted to pursue their narrow interest, and they stigmatized all these Brahman, Kshatriya, Vast and Shudra, and they concentrated powers in the hands of the Brahmins by few people. And then they decided, okay, now whoever is going to be born in a Brahman's family, he will be Brahman. Whoever is going to be born in a Kshatriya's family, that person is going to be a Kshatriya. So this was the case. So this was then made part of our Hindu religion. So this existed for thousands of years or hundreds of years, as you can see. So what state wanted to do in present day modern society after we got independence, that we wanted to treat each and every citizen equally. We wanted to treat each and every citizen of India, whether he was a Hindu, was a Muslim, he was from the upper caste or the lower caste. We all want, sorry, Indian constitution wanted to treat everyone equally, so that each and everybody is given equal respect based on a condition that they are citizen of India, and not on the condition that they belong to any particular religion. So that is why you can see that Indian religion, Indian secularism is different from, it is the first aspect, that how it is different from the Western concept of secularism. Here Indian government interferes in the functioning of religious aspect. For example, if I say that if there in Muslim community, you see, there was earlier a practice of triple talaq, earlier a practice of triple talaq. In triple talaq, what men used to do, that they used to say talaq, 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 and women were divorced, and they did not have any particular rights, they did not have any kind of rights. So what government did was, government wanted to shun this practice which was oppressive towards women, and it was a gender based discrimination. So what government did, it banned triple talaq system. Earlier what government banned, that government banned the practice of untouchability. Untouchability means that people are considered untouchable based on their caste, which is not a good thing to do in a modern society. And earlier when it was practiced, you can see that this was practiced because of the task being performed. If I give you an example of this untouchability, first let me complete this. So what government did was, government banned untouchability. It restricted people's following practice of untouchability by imposing fines, by penalizing them, by giving them punishments, legal punishments, that if you will practice untouchability based on the caste distinctions, you will be penalized, you will be punished. So this ended the concept of untouchability. If people were banned entry in temple just because of their caste, this was not a good case. So government also intervened in this matter, and what government did was, it ended this practice of not letting people enter into the temples just because their caste was low. So this was the case. What I was telling you about untouchability was that if in today's time or in the earlier times when untouchability started, or when Shudra, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, I was telling you, it was an occupation based distinction, not a caste based distinction. So at that point of time, you can see that when a person who performs an unhygienic task, if that person belongs to any caste, you cannot hug that person. For giving an example, that a person who is cleaning manhole, or who is cleaning the drainage system in your society, even though that person is from the upper caste or some other caste, you will not go and shake hands with that person, not because that person is from the other caste, but because that is unhygienic. That person is cleaning the drainage system, that person is touching things which contains harmful bacteria. So you will not hug that person. But when that person is is hygienic, he has taken bath, he has cleaned his hand, he has sanitized his hand, so then you can touch, so it is not a problem. So what I'm trying to tell you is that untouchability earlier, when it was introduced, was not based due to caste distinctions. It was based due to restrictions or due to conditions of hygiene, as you have seen in the case of COVID-19. If any person had COVID-19, you will not go near that person, even though that person is from the upper caste or lower caste. So what earlier people with narrow or parochial interest did, that they consolidated their power and concentrated powers in their hands, and then they stigmatized people working these menial tasks as untouchable. So this was not right. I think now you are getting my point. If you are getting my point, then you can comment yes sir. and if you like my video, then please do comment. It will help me a lot. Now, so I think you got the concept of untouchability. So that is why Indian state of secularism or Indian concept of secularism wants to interfere in the religious aspect of Indian society. Now, so this means that Indian secularism opposed both intra-religious domination and inter-religious domination. That means oppression of Dalit by the upper caste and oppression of other minorities by the majority community, wherever be the majority community. If in any community you see there are Muslim people in majority and minorities are Hindus or Sikhs, so government will oppose oppression by these people. If you will see that in any community there are a majority of Hindus and minorities are Muslims, so government will oppose oppression of these people as well. It will treat both these aspects equally. Now, so this is the first important difference between the mainstream Western secularism, that Indian secularism equally opposed the oppression of Dalits and women within Hinduism and discrimination against women within Indian Islam or Christianity. Now, the second difference that we will discuss is that Indian secularism deals not only with the religious freedom of individuals but also with religious freedoms of minorities. That means we not only focused on the fundamental rights of the individuals as a citizen, we also focused on the ideals of, or we also focused on the rights of minorities as a community. That means in India, we have given minority communities the right to establish their own educational institutions. What this means is that if that you can see that Muslim community has educational institutions running in the form of madrasas. So madrasas are fundamental rights of the Muslim community that they are given by the Indian Constitution, that they can establish their educational institutions of their own choice without the aid and governance of the government or the state. So what this will help in, it will help in protecting their culture, it will help in protecting their form of some form of education and religious aspects. So government has not only Indian Constitution has not only focused on the individual rights but also focused on the minority rights as well. Now, as we can see that in the Western model it did not exist anything like this. So third difference is, then since our secular state must be concerned equally with inter-religious domination, Indian secularism has made room for compatible with the idea of state supported religious reforms. This I have discussed earlier, that state supported religious reforms in this video only, as I previously discussed that we have abolished untouchability. This was practiced in Hinduism religion. We have abolished triple talaq system. It was practiced in Indian Islam. We have abolished child marriage. We have abolished sati system. Oh, sorry, no, sati system was abolished by British. So sorry. We have abolished all these religious aspects which continued even after independence. So what we did is that we wanted a secular state based on intra-religious equality. That means within a particular religion there should be equality among all the communities of that particular religion. Now, and here I have given you an example of ban on triple talaq. So now some question arises from this aspect of Indian secularism. We will see what these questions are and we will try to answer these questions. Now the questions are, can a state initiate or even support religious reforms and yet be secular? That means, can a state who will initiate any kind of religious reform for any particular religion yet be secular? That means secularism, as we know, is being distinct from any religion or being distinct from any particular religion. So can a state initiate or even support religious reforms and yet be secular? Or can a state claim to be secular and not maintain separation of religion from state? That means Indian state says that we are secular, and yet it tries to interfere in the religion of Hindus of Islam and Christianity and so on. So how can our state state can be secular? Indian state can be secular. Now we will see that why we can say we are secular, because we do not follow the policy of treating one religion only or treating every other religion as inferior religion or treating all other religions as superior religion. That means whenever we try to bring in reforms, whenever we try to bring in changes in any religion, we bring changes in each and every religion which has some aspects which are needs to be changed, whether it be Hinduism or Islam, है ना, or Christianity or Sikhism or any other religion. So what Indian secularism or Indian state does is it treats all religions equally, whether negatively or positively. Now what it means that positively and negatively, that means if when religion is treated, when we engage with religion negatively, that means we are trying to oppose the ideas of that particular religion which are contrary to the ideas or constitutional ideas of fundamental rights in Indian constitution. This means that if untouchability is followed in a particular religion, we Indian state will oppose that practice. If triple talaq is practiced in any particular religion, Indian state will oppose that practice, है ना. So this is Indian state engaging with the religion in a negative sense, negatively, in a negative sense. Now how it can see positive, how it can engage in positive mode. So positive mode of engagement can be that whenever a religion requires help of the state, a state will help, for example giving minority religions to establish educational institutions of their choice. So in a way we can see that Indian constitution or Indian state interferes with the religious aspects in both negative and a positive manner. When it wants to oppose negative ideas, it will bring in reforms, and when it wants to promote positive ideas, it will help those religious communities. Now moving on, we can see that Indian state of secularism, how it is different from the Western model of secularism. I hope it is all clear that how it is conceptually different from the Western model of secularism. Now, so earlier we have seen a statement given by Jawaharlal Nehru on secularism, that when someone asked him ki, what do you think is secularism, he told that it is equal protection by the state to all religions. But after getting into topics, after delving into these ideas of Indian secularism, we can say that it is not equal respect for all religions, but it can be equal disrespect for some aspects of organized religion as well. That means we give all religions equal respect in a sense when these religions do not have a practice which are derogatory towards other citizens of India. All right, then we have equal disrespect for these religions as well when they have derogatory practices towards other citizens of India, so we can see that this line will not be sufficient to describe Indian secularism. That is, equal respect for all religions is not the core concept of Indian secularism. It can be said that equal respect and disrespect both to the religions, because when we are respecting any particular religion, we are respecting Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, and so on. And when we are bringing in reforms, we are bringing in reforms in Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Sikh, Jainism, and Buddhism, all. For example, if I give an example, we have discussed only examples of Hindus and Islam. If I give you an example of how Jainism practice has been treated by state government of India, and how a practice of Parsis. See, in Parsis or in Zoroastrianism, there is a practice that they leave their dead people in the open where they have temples, and vultures eat we eat flesh from their bodies. So Indian government or Indian Supreme Court, what it did was it considered this practice as derogatory towards the dead people who are now dead. That means Supreme Court and government said that even though it is a religious practice, it still is derogatory towards someone who has died. So this cannot be done, that you cannot leave that person in a graveyard of your choice and that vulture will eat from that particular body. So it tried to bring in reform from this aspect as well. Now discussing about Jainism. In Jainism, there is an extreme practice of, I guess, Sallekna. It is in modern sense it is called something else, but in this practice what Jainism extreme form is that people don't eat for days until they are dead. That means it is a kind of assisted suicide, it is a kind of suicide that they are not eating by their choice, and after few days they are dead, है ना. It is some form of practice in that particular religion to attain moksha or nirvana, whatever be the concept. But still, so government, what government said was, or what Supreme Court intervened was, that it is not a good practice and you need to abolish this practice as it is not mandatory to do so, है ना. So you can see how in Indian state and all other Supreme Court and judiciary and everyone is reforming each and every religion that is present in India, and not just the majority religions. So it is equal respect for all religions, and it is equal disrespect for all religions as well. Now next we will see in last part, we will continue with the criticisms of Indian secularism. So thank you class, have a wonderful day, and I guess this topic was clear to you. If you have any appreciating comment, then please do comment, and if you have anything which you would like me to improve with, so that you can comment that as well. But if you will give me an appreciating comment, it will be very helpful for me and it will be motivating for me. Thank you, have a nice day. Thank you.